Everose, and welcome back to another episode of my podcast series, where we dive into the chaos and beauty of anime, one deep dive at a time. If you're new here, I'm Scarlet Everose, your solo guide through psychological warfare, emotional breakdown, and everything in between. In the last episode, we explored the intense battle of belief and rebellion between Light Yagami and Lelouch v. Britannia. But today we're taking on something just as calculated and maybe even more chaotic. Lelouch v. Britannia versus L from Death Note. Two brilliant minds, two completely different methods, and only one wins the war of logic and manipulation and mystery. Grab your snacks, get comfy, and let's peel back the layers. Real quick, before we dive in, I just want to say thank you all for the support, shares, and love. This podcast is growing, and I truly feel like I'm growing with it. I also wanted to take a second to thank everyone who voted on my Instagram polls at the time I started working on this episode. The votes were fully in favor of a versus trailer, so I rolled with Lelouch versus L. Since then, I noticed the polls changed a bit. Some of you started leaning more towards the solo breakdown, but just to be real with you, I had already started recording and editing before I saw the shift. So if you were one of those people hoping for a solo teaser, I see you and I appreciate you. More solo deep dives are already coming, I promise. I just wanted to be honest and let you all know that I value your feedback so much. It really helps in shape where this series is going. Yes, I really want to thank you guys for the votes. As you guys might or might not seen on my Instagram, it truly is amazing, and I truly want to thank you all for that. And I promise that there will be solo deep dives as well, not just verses. I will do a poll question next week on Saturday the 17th, so it'll be perfect. You guys can vote for whatever you guys either can vote for, either a versus again or a solo one. Alright, no more stalling. Let's get into it. Alright, segment 1. Who is Lelouch v. Britannia? A former prince turned voluntarily a genius, hiding behind the mask of Zero while pulling the strings of an entire rebellion. So yes, if you guys have not watched my 5th episode, you guys can watch it on the right side of your screen. There's going to be a pop-up right there that I talk a little bit more about him in my 5th episode, when I was also talking about Light Yagami, that we were versing against each other, plus they're also both very controversial characters between the two. So real quick, Lelouch is the main protagonist from a show called Code Geass that came out in 2006, and he, at the time, he was a prince that was exiled by his own emperor father named Charles v. Britannia, and he had a little sister named Nunnally v. Britannia, and he also goes by another name called Lelouch Lamperouge. That's kind of like a name that he takes so that nobody can see that he's a prince and stuff like that. And Lelouch wants to make a better world for his sister while he gets his hands dirty. That's basically who Lelouch basically is, and he goes against his own country. He has a best friend that turned enemy. From betrayal, from everything in between, you guys. This is an amazing show. I am planning to watch it very, very soon. I have watched this series before in my early middle school years, but I haven't fully watched it. But my goal is to watch it at least in this year, and I'm super excited to watch it. And and I know it's going to be amazing. And who is Lawliet? A world-renowned detective known for his erratic behavior, unmatched intelligence, and obsession with justice, especially when it comes to unmasking killers like Kira. So if you guys do not know who Lawliet is, he is the second protagonist of Death Note, and I've also done a video on him in my 4th episode with L versus Light versus L, and so basically he's a detective that tries to get one of the main characters that was good but then turned evil towards the end. You know, he knows who the killer is, he just doesn't have much evidence, and that gets him in so much trouble. An amazing character, funny, dry humor, but he is literally amazing. And even though these two would never meet in canon, but if they did, we would witness a battle between a rebel mastermind and a justice-obsessed detective, and honestly, it would be wild. It would truly be wild. And to be honest, I think they would have teamed up and took down Light, if I have to be brutally honest. Yes. Alright, segment 2, duality breakdown. Let's look at that foundation. Lelouch fights against an empire. L works within a system to expose crime. One plays by no rules, and the other bends the rules of logic to trap his enemies. So Lelouch is the type of character that would do anything for his sister. In the very beginning, his sister was his living vessel because he felt betrayed by his father. He didn't have no one to trust. He had a best friend named Zaku Kururuki, but his best friend betrayed him by his own best friend going against his own country, which is Japan, and goes with Lelouch's rivalry between his own country, which is Britannia. So his own best friend betrayed him as well, so his living vessel was his sister. But then he turns out throughout the entire story that he realizes, oh, my sister isn't the only person in the world. I can make a whole new world for everyone. Doesn't matter who it is. But first he was like, I need to get my hands dirty. I don't care if people view me as the devil. I don't care. As long as people live in harmony, that's all I care about. I don't care about breaking the rules. I don't care about people betraying me. Even the people that betrayed me, they're gonna go down with me, type deal. And yeah, he has his motive, even though it wasn't the best way to get the world to be a better place, but at least he had a purpose. He loved his sister to death. He was very protective of her. And to me, my personal opinion, you guys can watch my episode 5 and my episode 4. I would say episode 5, because I love Lelouch. I know he's a murderer. I know he has done some very ungodly things, but he had a good reason to. He loved his sister. He would do anything for his sister. And that's why he's one of my favorite anti-heroes. Now, with L, I love L. I was Team L since the very beginning, even though if you guys have not seen my fourth episode, I have a love-hate relationship with one of the main protagonists of the show, Death Note. and you know, L knew one of the main protagonists was the killer. He just didn't have enough evidence to prove it. But to me as an audience, I didn't care. I just wanted L to know that he was proven right all along, even though if he didn't have as much evidence, that didn't matter to me. All I cared about is that he knew he was right. He knew he was right. He just didn't have enough evidence, and that was his downfall. He's such a great character. I love it when he's eating snacks. He's such a cutie pie. Like I love him. Like he's such a dorky guy. Like such a dork, and I just love L. Like I love both Lelouch and L because they're those type of characters. They might not be the greatest in decision making. I would say aka Lelouch on that part, but they do it for the good of humanity, and that's what I love about them. Let's see. Lelouch is theatrical, layered, always hiding behind personas. L is quiet, weirdly charming, and ridiculously observant. Yes, he is. He observes everything. Both manipulate, both deceive, both are 5 steps ahead. That is very true. But one is manipulative for him at the time to make people think he was ruling the world, and the other just wanted to manipulate just to prove his point that he is the greatest detective in the whole world. That's the difference between these two. But while Lelouch manipulates the entire population, L isolates and analyzes individuals. One thinks like a king and the other one thinks like a computer. Very much so. Like I just said, Lelouch manipulated an entire world, thinking it was like an angel, / a demon at the same time. It was really interesting. Like I said, even though I haven't watched the series fully, I know very much so that Lelouch, did it for the greater good. Even if it wasn't the best decisions, but he did it for the greater good. Versus L, L just did it just to prove his point, just because he wants people to know that he's the greatest detective, and he does think like a computer. He does not think of anything else besides candy and loves solving mysteries. Segment 3, Attraction and Power. It's hard not to be pulled by their presence. Lelouch commands attention, his voice, his posture, his speeches. L draws you in with his silence, his strange posture, and his piercing stare. Lelouch gets people to follow him. L gets people to confess to themselves. They're both magnetic, but for opposite reasons. Lelouch leads a crowd. L interrogates Shadow. And at that contrast, it's what makes this match up so intense. So basically Lelouch has such badass quotes. I love his quotes. He was born to be a leader. He knew what he was doing at literally the 17, 18 years old. He knew what he was doing. He knew he was gonna be the bad guy, but for a good reason, more of an anti-hero. And L is the type of person that he's so strange, but you just can't help but think, what is up with this guy? What's going through his head? And yeah, L truly makes people want to confess because he's a detective, obviously. But one of the things that kind of also shows you that even though L knew what he was doing, not everyone that believes that they're good at something. Just because you're good at something doesn't mean you know everything. And that was the downfall of L. He knew Light had to be Kira, but he didn't have enough evidence to prove it because Light would manipulate everyone, including the situation, on how he saw fit, and he knew. Quick rundown here, real quick. He knew that if he slipped, I would have caught on very quickly. So one of the things he did is forget the memories of a little bit of the Death Note, and that would make to L even more harder to say, okay, you're not. Even though he would always say, yes, you are, yes, you are, yes, you are. But that's how, you have to be very careful on how people make you pull your guard down, because they'll do anything to make you feel like, okay, I can trust this person. Don't trust no one. Doesn't matter if it's your loved one, doesn't matter who it is. Be very careful because people can change on you very quickly, no matter the circumstances. Just be very careful. Alright, segment 4, personal growth, boundaries, and reflection. Lelouch begins with revenge and ends with sacrifice. L starts with curiosity but grows emotionally attached, especially in the Kira case. Yes, so basically, like I said in the very beginning with Lelouch didn't care about anyone or anything, just his sister. He only had a few people, but even those few people betrayed him. So it basically just shows you guys, be very careful. Do something that makes you feel good. Even if people don't understand you, that is perfectly okay. It shouldn't matter. What needs to be understood is that you understand yourself, because nobody else will understand you besides you. And that's what happens with Lelouch. He gets really, he's so protective of his sister that he doesn't see that until later that, things start happening, and he starts seeing the bigger picture. Don't be so close-minded, you guys, even though it could be probably the safest thing and to keep your guard up and stuff, but always be open-minded, because you never know what possibilities you'll run into. Just be very careful on what those possibilities are, though, because you never know if it's either a trap or a tactic. Like I was telling you about L's downfall. L is a very lonely person, even though he's hella rich. He has a butler and someone else, but he's the most loneliest person, and that's how L manipulated himself into being this vulnerable guy, and make L think he unfortunately had a friend, when in reality he never did. And he was so emotionally attached that he didn't see. He knew that red flags were there, he knew, but he just, like I said, he didn't have the okay, he's just using this to manipulate. And no, he was really lonely, and that was his downfall. Just be very careful. I know loneliness can be a major thing, but sometimes, you guys, as long as you surround yourself with good people, like actually good people, not just people who just smile at you just smile at you, but then you realize they're holding a knife, they're piercing your heart, they're putting the knife really deep into your heart. Yeah, don't be around those people. Be around those people that if they show any other emotion, and they're human too, be with those people, because they're not. Just be careful at the same time, because these people can also manipulate the emotions just to get you to be more closer and just to hurt you. But I'm not saying everyone's like that. I'm just saying people who show more emotion and actually do want the best for you, like it's so flippin' true. It's always at your worst that you realize who the true people are. It's always at your worst. When you're at your best, everybody can be around you. It's when you're at your worst, that's when people truly decide either if you're a good person or a bad one, and they were just there to see your downfall. Always remember, it's always at the worst and the darkest time, not the greatest times, because the greatest times can look to everyone like you're doing either to them a favor or they're actually there for you. It's always the worst times people show their true colors, not the greatest times. So just be very aware of that. Let's see. Okay. Lelouch lies to everyone, even to those he loves. Yes, like he actually lied to his sister more than once about killing people to protect them. L risks everything, including his own life, to chase what he believes is justice. And like I said, that is his downfall. If you're willing to risk everything just to prove something that you're right, just be very careful on how you do that, because I've seen a lot of stories of people doing that and they end up either dead or there. Just be very careful, because look, you only live once. If it's an opportunity, you guys, where you have in order to do that, you have to change yourself. That's not a good thing. If it's changing you to be a bad person, don't do it, even though that is one of the most hardest and tempting things to do. But I'm just being honest about it. Take opportunities that you risk for doing a good thing or doing the best you can. Risk that, even to the people that they had control over you and you didn't even know it. Risk that. Lose them because they were never there for you. I'm just being honest with you guys. And they're both deeply lonely, brilliant, and broken in their own ways. Lelouch was broken due to betrayal and not letting everyone in. He was super guarded. L was just deeply lonely. He didn't want to be awkward, but he was awkward. But if you actually notice, he was actually a pretty sweet guy. He just didn't know how to communicate because he would always isolate himself. And to that, I say, you guys, just be guarded, but don't think. Well, actually, I'm gonna rephrase it like this. Be guarded to the point that you're not easily to manipulate. Yes, watch videos, read books on actual thing, not people just saying it to you and then you're like, oh my gosh, this word. No, read into your own life is your book, is your learning lesson, if you want to take it like that. But don't hang out around just anybody. Be very careful, but always try to be kind. Even though if people test you, just try to be kind, because you don't know what those people are going through. But always be careful in how they say their story, because people can always say things just so that you lay your guard down and hurt you. I'm not saying all the time, but just be very careful, because not everyone deserves your time or your kindness. No, just be very careful. You don't know who you're talking to. You don't know if a person's either a sheep or a wolf. Ask yourself, if you had to follow one of them, who would you trust first? Who would you trust more? The masked rebel or the shadow detective? Ooh. Even though Lelouch has done for the greater good, I wouldn't trust him, because he's such a very, very good liar, a very good liar and stuff. I say in that moment I would trust L a little bit more, just because he's doing it for justice. But at the same time, it's like I trust both of them, but like I trust Lelouch because I know he's doing it for the greater good, even if his decisions are questionable. But if I had to honestly choose, it would be L, because L wants to be proven right, but it's like that right where it's not that he's saying, oh, I'm always right. Probably he doesn't want to always admit that he's right, but he doesn't want to admit that he's not always right. That's what I meant. But yeah, I think L would be, because and like I said, in reality he's just a very lonely guy, but he's also very charming. He's very sweet. Lelouch, I would trust, but then I would keep my distance just in case if he changes his mind, because you can either be his option or if you're a really good person, I'm being honest, if you're really good with his sister, he will trust you. And I know if I was friends with his sister, I know he would trust me, because I relate to his sister in some ways. So yeah, I trust more, but I do not trust more. I believe to trust L a little bit more than Lelouch, but that doesn't mean I don't give Lelouch a chance though. Yeah, but what about you guys? Who would you trust more, L or Lelouch? Drop your comments down below. And I would like to see who you guys trust. So that's it. Lelouch versus L. Two minds built for strategy. Two hearts that hide their pain behind the mask. And one question that lingers. What does it really take to stay in control without losing yourself? Thanks again for tuning in to another episode of the podcast. I'm loving these head-to-head, and your support means everything. Don't forget that new episodes drop every Sunday at 7 p.m. You can find me on Spotify and YouTube as Scarlet Everose. Take care of yourselves, keep questioning everything, and as always, love you all. Bye!